Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Ethereum ecosystem project demo. Today we will be talking to James from Octant, and we'll be doing a little bit of an update, getting an idea of what's been going on since the last time we talked and what updates are there in the ecosystem, and kind of just walking through it. Welcome, James.
Thanks for having me. So maybe for some of the viewers who aren't familiar with Octant, just sharing a little bit about the project overall, and then diving into the updates. Is that the best way to go about it?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. So Octant comes from the Golem ecosystem, which if any of the viewers are, I guess you could say, OGs in the space, they might remember Golem from a long time ago. It's one of the first projects that had a crowdfunding round on Ethereum. And that's important because before the ICO craze, there were some projects that did really, really well in generating a large treasury for their project's ambitions. And so Golem had a very successful crowdfunding round, and to this day we still have, with current Ethereum prices, around $1 billion within the treasury. So Octant was born out of having a pretty substantial Ethereum treasury, and so we staked 100,000 ETH, and we are running these rounds every 90 days that both fund our users and public goods projects that participate. And so we have these staking rewards coming in. They're around 900 to 1,000 ETH per quarter, and that ETH is split up into a few different piles, mainly a pool that funds our users, and then a matching pool that funds public goods. And so users are presented a choice where they can either keep the rewards that they have generated for themselves, or they can donate some or all of those rewards to public goods. And should they choose the latter, they effectively leverage the matching pool. So your money goes a lot further if you donate versus if you keep it for yourself. And so we've run a few rounds now, and most recently I would say that this third round is probably the most eventful one that we had, and not to the tune of everybody's happiness, but definitely eventful nevertheless. So currently the way that Octant operates is a plutocracy. So if you have more of our token locked into the app, you essentially had more voting power to be able to sway the matching pool. And over the first two rounds, the whales within our system, I think, were more self-interested, meaning they kept their rewards for themselves, and subsequently weren't leveraging the matching pool or having these big influences over the matching pool because they weren't interacting with funding public goods. In our most recent round, though, that was not the case. So I think an hour to an hour and a half before the round was set to close, one of the whales who had pretty substantial voting power came in and donated all of their rewards, a substantial amount of ETH. I think it was around 10 ETH, 8 to 10 ETH, I can't remember now, to 3 projects. And so where there were a large amount of projects that were set to get funding before that whale decided to, I guess you could consider it flipping the table over. That obviously ruffled a lot of feathers, because I think there were a lot of projects that were anticipating funding, especially because our window is a 2-week period, and the results were largely the same for that 2-week period. Having such a dramatic swing at the end of the round was not, I think, in something that a lot of the project leaders had appreciated, and so we definitely have some updates based upon that. I think when we go back and view all of that, view all of what took place, there wasn't anything illegal about these whales having large influence. I think what was built was largely the intention to get a foundation underneath us and iterate along the way. We're going to be moving over to quadratic funding in our upcoming round, and we had actually intended to have a more democratic process over the matching pool for quite a while now. I just don't think that there was as much of a fire under our team to move there as quickly as possible. And if there wasn't that fire before, we definitely had that fire now, because having a bunch of disgruntled community members and public goods builders is never a good way to cultivate good relationships at the end of the day. but yeah, that was the intention, was just to be able to support public goods. And so when we launched this app about 9 months ago, I think we saw the lesser of two evils, launching an app that was a plutocracy versus not launching at all. And so, to this day, I think we've donated about $3 million to different public goods projects, and we have an ever-growing community that is interested in both supporting themselves and projects that they care about. So I would say that we've built that foundation, but it's definitely time to evolve so that the process of what we're doing within Octant isn't decided by a few people at the end of the day. So yeah, we're going to be moving over to quadratic funding in Epoch 4. The round takes place in July. If you're building a public good and you're looking to get support, there's plenty of opportunity to join us for this upcoming round. Applications are due at the beginning of June though, so need to get those applications in soon if you are going to be looking to participate. And then beyond that, I think we have some bigger ideas about what we've learned over these past 3 rounds and how we're kind of thinking about Octant long term. One of the big things that we released within this quarter was the release of our Octant Community Fund, and that was a result or a decision to try to empower our community a bit further, because right now the only thing really you can do with Octant as a community member is fund yourself or fund public goods within a round. There isn't really much decision making that you have any control over outside of these featured rounds that we're doing. And so we decided to create a community fund where right now a governance council, but hopefully in the future a broader framework of community governance is ultimately going to be deciding where these funds go outside of strictly funding public goods. So having more control, more impact, more, I guess, more involvement at the end of the day of some of the things that Octant is doing. And so that's what we're trying to plant the seed within our community fund. Beyond that, we've long been discussing for a while Octant V2 and what Octant V2 looks like, because I think we have some pretty strong data at the moment that, while not exclusively, the majority of Octant users at the moment, or the GLM token holders, are not extremely interested in donations, but they are fairly interested in returns. So we're trying to conceptualize how can we maybe switch the narrative within Octant from a donation platform into a impact investment platform. So investing into public goods, and then there being either some kind of social capital or return on investment that maybe comes back to these participants later on down the road. So maybe being like an earlier stage within what Optimism's doing with their retro, maybe being something that can support projects in an earlier stage within that life cycle. We don't have any concrete ideas yet. We actually have a team offsite where we're going to be spending 2 weeks together to really try to workshop and brainstorm through these ideas. But yeah, we're really thinking long and hard about how we can build something that I think is going to contribute to the collective while being something a little more interesting, I think, to our users than what we have currently. So trying to improve and iterate along the way. That was a whirlwind. So I could dive into any of those things. I'm not sure if there was one topic that was maybe a little more interesting than the rest, but yeah, happy to dive into any of that if you think it's applicable.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think the first thing is just the updates to the round. You've been talking about retroactive funding as like a model that you're kind of basing some things off of, and you've talked about quadratic funding as something that could help solve some of its existing problems. And I think a lot of those ideas that you had were very quickly validated at the end of last round. But yeah, tell us more about the grant round, because that's like the big new update with the community fund and kind of the initiatives that you have as part of it. There's like those 3 different categories of grants that you're looking to put out there.
Yeah, so we're starting pretty small with it right now, but the community fund is taking 5% of what we generate in staking rewards and trying to drive that initially towards Octant growth initiatives. So there's 3 pillars within that we've identified for this first round. The 3 areas are user acquisition or marketing user acquisition, tooling and integrations, and then lastly, ecosystem collaboration. So an example of that would be a community round that we did recently with Greenpill, and then before that, SheFi, where they had this community of builders, and we put up some funds for a matching pool, and then allow that community to signal, the projects that they care about most and want to ultimately support. That's really big for us because right now, Octant, I wouldn't say is a household name yet. We're definitely trying to expand our awareness to the broader public goods funding ecosystem, that there is this mechanism that you can come apply for, that is trying to run these rounds in a sustainable way to where you could receive some significant funding if you are able to champion your cause within our community. So yeah, we're trying to expand the reach or the scope that Octant has in these community rounds that we've run with Greenpill and SheFi. We're definitely a great way to do that, and we want to be able to continue running similar rounds with other ecosystems as well. But yeah, like I said, the first 2 categories as well, marketing and user acquisition, and tooling and integrations, we definitely recognize the collective superpower of working in a decentralized ecosystem, and a lot of people have really great ideas that unless we tap into that, we're never going to see what those might be. So trying to drive ideas across there, and then also there's some stellar marketers and storytellers out in our space that I think would do a really great job if we were able to financially support them. So yeah, we're just having this small pool up for grabs, and we've been seeing a lot of applications already coming in, and I've been doing small like office hours or one-on-one calls with a lot of prospective applicants that have some really neat ideas that I think we're going to see an influx of more proposals coming in on the back half of this week. So really excited to see overall like what comes through with all that.
For the logistics of that, what is the general timeline for the application, and how long is this funding supposed to last? Because the rounds happen every quarter. Would these community rounds happen also every quarter, and is that kind of the duration that you're looking at?
That's how we're seeing it. If we need to switch it up to where it's more of an ongoing process rather than just doing these rounds every 90 days, similar to how Octant's running. I definitely, because this is the first round, we're definitely going to be taking a lot of those learnings and trying to adapt and evolve, just like we're doing with Octant. But we don't have any concrete ideas. If I had to guess, yeah, we were going to be running these for these rounds every 90 days for a few rounds, just to I guess get enough feedback to where we want to go, or how we want to evolve moving forward. The operations around all of it is we've had some great community members over the last 3 rounds express a lot of interest in providing us some really valuable feedback. So we asked many of these members to join us in being part of the decision-making process for this first round. Initially, it was thought of that we were going to be designing a governance model to where anybody within the Octant community was going to be able to participate. Turns out it takes a really long time if you're going to do that properly, which is unfortunately what a lot of DAOs don't end up doing. They don't create these sustainable pathways for contribution, and end up having this like kind of meme coin rise and fall where there's a lot of excitement really early on, and then it just dies really, really quickly. So yeah, just like with staking rewards and thinking sustainably, we definitely wanted to build this community fund from the perspective of sustainability as well. So because we didn't have enough time to get all that squared away before the first round of funding came in, we just figured a stopgap way to manage this until we have that broader framework was to have a trusted council of members that we've had a relationship with for a little while to be temporary stewards over that decision making until we have something more broad ready to go.
Yeah, that's super cool. Is the kind of idea moving forward to be like a voting platform, somewhat similar to how the rounds kind of function?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really hard to say. Some of the proposals that we're seeing in terms of the tooling and integration stuff have some really neat ideas around things like utilizing Farcaster. So like there's this this tech within Farcaster now, Farcaster Frames, where you can literally program an API into your social media feed, and so We've also chatted with folks that are building some really cool things to where you can scrape data from the wallet addresses on Farcaster or the social graph on Farcaster from all of the wallet addresses that hold your token, and so being able to query that information and organize it in a way to understand what is interesting to that group of users. So I don't want to say, we're going to be doing it that way specifically, because I'm seeing a lot of ideas right now that I could easily see something interesting taking place on Farcaster, for example, that just might overtake, kind of how we're thinking about things right now. Yeah. So I'd have to put that one on ice. I've seen enough interesting ideas right now outside of what we're doing that I guess I'm not confident that we are going to be doing this in a few rounds from now in the same way that we're like running these Octant rounds.
Totally, yeah, and you guys keep us all updated with changes all the time, so it's always fun to see what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I mean, this space evolves really quickly, right? So I think having a good finger on your pulse with all that is the smart way to go about it. Otherwise, you're just going to be I don't know. You're not going to have much attention on you, and in this attention economy, it's already hard enough if you're doing all the things you can to stay top of mind, and if you start to lose that, then you're digging yourself even a bigger hole there.
Totally, and it's definitely hard for a lot of public goods to get that attention on them when they're doing stuff that might be more behind the scenes.
I know there's people working on that as well. So I know one guy specifically. I won't put his information out there because I don't know if he wants me publicly speaking about this. But he's thinking long and hard about how you can channel like the degenerate gambler's motivation to make money on meme coins, and how you can instead turn that into a curation of public good. So being rewarded for bringing into the limelight a public good that's providing impact or value to an ecosystem. So I think that's really, really cool. I think it has a lot of assumptions that need to be tested, but I'm glad there are really smart people that are trying to tackle this Keynesian beauty contest, because I know a lot of public goods builders that are they really want to focus on what they're building and not having to sell what they're building. So being able to solve that in some capacity, I think, is a massive value add.
Totally. Do you see that, maybe some of the projects that are joining in these rounds or applying for these rounds, if they're not sure necessarily where they fit in, could they apply to both the grant rounds that you guys are doing with the ecosystem fund and the actual Octant round itself?
This is a really, really good question. So differentiating the two. So the Octant Community Fund is specifically for Octant ideas in those three categories that I mentioned. If you are building a public good and you're looking for support within your operations, or some ideas that you want to be able to build something, scale, whatever it might be, if you're looking just for support that supports your project but doesn't have any direct proposal to supporting Octant, then applying for Octant's next public goods funding round is definitely the way to go. So yeah, these are two different funds for two different ideas. Like we have the featured round, which is specifically just supporting public goods, and then we have the Octant Community Fund, which is tailored right now to support Octant growth.
Cool. Yeah, that definitely is helpful. Maybe it would also be helpful, like those three categories, like what kind of project you're kind of thinking about when you write those, like marketing and community initiatives, like what is the kind of idea behind them?
I think there's so for the marketing side, there's definitely a lot of proposals that we're seeing right now. I think on the educational front, content creation, brand awareness, things of that nature. If we did see one that was really, really interesting, that was combining with a tooling proposal as well, of essentially abstracting the token that is heart and center to Octant, and having people joining the system without ever needing to buy and lock the token, but also having some education around all that, around both why they would be joining this ecosystem and the type of impact or interactions that they'd be having, i.e. funding public goods. The tooling and integration side, we've definitely seen a lot of ideas around Farcaster initiatives, just because I think there's a lot of building going on there. There's a lot of attention there, and A lot of interesting areas to explore and experiment with. Beyond beyond Farcaster, I think people have been thinking about maybe some more interesting sort of metrics or statistics pages. Um, we did see one as well around being like a bridge for delegation. So delegating this decent amount of tokens that we have and being able to allow like an outside community to participate within the voting process for a PG funding round. Yeah, it's really hard to say. I mean, some of this stuff I would have thought of until we started seeing the applications come in. So I don't want to try to drive exactly what we're trying to see. I think many of the applications that we've seen thus far are really interesting, and yeah, it'll be neat to see how the governance council ultimately votes on that. But I don't want to steer anybody listening to this into a specific direction, because anything that they think that fits within this kind of broad criteria that we've tried to outline on the platform, the Charmverse platform for the community fund, yeah, take your shot and share what your idea is, and yeah, we'll definitely be trying to provide as valuable feedback as we can. And this isn't going to be the only round when we're doing this, so it might just be an opportunity to kind of test the waters and then improve whatever the idea is for the next round.
Cool. Yeah. I think what we'll do is we'll probably just put like the Discord link into like the YouTube video and podcast, and people can come to your office hours if they're thinking of applying.
Yeah, we have office hours every week in Discord, and then also I have one-on-one calls available for people, and then we also have a separate community call where a lot of people have been showing up because they love POAPs, but more so because it's an opportunity to ask any and all questions around Octant, whether they're a community member, a public goods builder, somebody who wants to maybe submit to the proposal to the community fund. Like, this is, I guess, like an open classroom where multiple people can kind of come into these office hour settings and just get the information that they're looking for.
Super cool. Pooja, did you have anything?
I really love the concept of office hour. We are doing something similar for EIP editing. Like as people may know that EIP is also one of the integral part of the Ethereum ecosystem. Not for the Octant, but definitely for Ethereum ecosystem, we bring this on. And I have seen these things working really fine. That provides an opportunity to all like existing and new project to understand what kind of updates they can share with the community and what would help. I would really love to understand if there is a way to maybe reach out to the participants of Octant community, like the stakers who are actually considering, like you were mentioning earlier, that there are certain people who are not open to the idea of like donation. They want to keep it for themselves, but how we can motivate. It's good that Octant is already thinking about that. Anyway, we can support, we can maybe organize or join some place where we can talk to them directly and check the temperature, what kind of project they would be interested in supporting. Because I understand with this Octant, the funding round, the public good funding round, there are so many new projects, like naive people coming in. They don't know what people want to see. They are just doing their job. So I hope that this kind of placeholder would provide them an opportunity to learn as well, along with us.
Yeah, I would say that rather than trying to find the few community members that we have now and understanding like what they're looking for, I can do a better job, and what I have a lot of ideas around in terms of building a much broader community that is interested in funding public goods into the Octant ecosystem. And with the move to quadratic funding, that larger community, in my opinion, would be much more of a value add. A lot of these community members that we have right now are coming from an old Golem ecosystem that was building something completely different than what we have right now with Octant. And so trying to motivate participation from these folks that largely have been more self-interested than I think interested in funding public goods. With the move over to quadratic funding, it just makes a lot more sense to me to try to build a bigger community around that. And I'm really confident that we can. There's a lot of stuff. I keep mentioning Farcaster, but there's been this huge surge of growth that I have been seeing amongst the public goods funding ecosystem and the activity that is going on in Farcaster, that I'm really, really confident that we can tap into this large community's motivation and onboard them into Octant and have them participating in community calls and understanding, what projects out of the many that are sharing their initiatives and projects being able to connect ultimately with these theoretical supporters. So that's going to be my job over the next 6 months is really building this public goods funding community into Octant, so that there's a place for the builders to tap into and allow their message to resonate.
Yeah, definitely. I have, from my personal experience, Octant is one of the projects. Those are supporting public good funding projects which are never known. They are providing them there's a space to other projects to learn about it and grow alongside. So thank you so much for providing Ethereum Cat holders also this opportunity to be a part of it, and all these new initiatives like the new proposals, new ideas that you guys have came up with. I'm hoping many more projects in the ecosystem will get an opportunity to flourish along with us.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Glad we're so aligned.
I think that's really all we had. If there's anything else you want to say to the community, feel free. Stage is yours. But
yeah, I would just say that we're always open and active in our Discord. You can find us on Farcaster as well. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to approach us and ask. Mateus and I we definitely do our best to provide any and all information that is needed. So whether you're a builder, potential community member, you want to get involved more in the Octant Community Fund or the governance that we're building around that, come find us and we're happy to have those conversations when and whenever.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and looking forward to seeing what happens in the next round.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on. Really enjoyed the talk.
Absolutely.